Well, thank you all for being here with us today. It does my heart good to see this room filled to overflowing, and of course I'm always very proud as an aunt of my impressive and handsome and articulate nephew Levi. It's really quite a treat to see these children whom I've known since childhood. And I think I have a niece here as well, Liberty, and another niece, Dulcia. So several of my sister's children are here. Unfortunately, none of mine were able to make it today. And before I go any further, I think I need to recognize and ask you all to join me in recognizing the matriarch of the Lantos tribe, and we are quite a tribe these days, and the person who was at least as responsible for the remarkable work of my late father, Tom Lantos, in the field of human rights, as he was himself, and that is my mother, Annette Lantos. Please stand up. She is a hero to many people, but none more so than her two daughters and her 17, 18 grandchildren, and we are losing track of how many great-grandchildren. So, and she continues to lead us as chairman of the Lantos Foundation for Human Rights and Justice. I also want to briefly just pay tribute to the people with whom I will be sharing this podium and who I am sharing this room with today, because this room is filled with human rights heroes. We have, of course, Yigal Carmon, who with his brilliant leadership of memory, is doing extraordinary work on a daily basis. And those of us who know Yigal know it's pretty much 24 hours a day that he does this extraordinary work to bridge the language gap and to bring to the light of day and to the attention of the world the appalling things that are going on in other parts of the world. Stuart Eisenstadt, his distinguished record I know will be recited by Levi later, but he's been both a dear friend to the Lantos family and an extraordinary leader on an incredible range of crucial issues in the world today. I want to recognize Dr. Kay King, who for many years was a key leader in my father's congressional office, also very graciously served as administrative assistant for my husband, Dick Swett, when he was a member of Congress, and who has also been side by side with us in so many human rights battles, and then, of course, Ambassador Pizarro, who we'll be hearing from later. So I could go on, and I've met some of you just today, and there are more heroes in this room than we have time for me to introduce individually, but I want to thank you all for your presence here and tell you how much it means to us. You know, I had an interesting experience this morning as I was making my notes for my remarks today. The pen I was using leaked all over my hands, leaving a dark blue stain. And I immediately rushed to the bathroom and began trying to wash it out with soap and water. Well, any of you who have ever had a stain, a really big stain on your hands, knows that it doesn't come out with just soap and water. It needed more powerful medicine, a more powerful disinfectant. Anti-Semitism in all its forms, both egregious and subtle, is the persistent, ancient stain on the hands of humanity. And it also does not come out easily with soap and water. It also requires stronger, deeper cleaning. My old boss, Joe Biden, who I suppose I should now refer to in more distinguished terms as the Vice President of the United States, used to say that sunlight was the best disinfectant, that exposing evils to the bright light of day was the best way to deal with them. And that really is the task of the Lantos Archives. Despite the imagery that the word archives conjures of a dusty library and sort of information secreted away in a place that nobody goes to, we at the Lantos Archives and at Memory are actually in the sunlight business. Through the extraordinary work that our partner Memory does day in and day out, we are exposing the vile and pervasive anti-Semitism that lies at the heart of so much of the Middle East and beyond. Now, for those of us of Jewish heritage or faith, there is a very powerful, personal reason for fighting to expose the evils of anti-Semitism. We know too well the consequences of allowing this cancerous stain to spread unchecked. My late father, Tom Lantos, as has already been said, was the only Holocaust survivor ever elected to the Congress, and he understood better than most the need for constant, unyielding vigilance in this fight. But it is not just on behalf of the Jewish people that we seek to expose and eliminate anti-Semitism and its attendant evil of Holocaust denial. It is only the oldest and most virulent manifestation of a religiously directed bigotry that is directed against other peoples and against other faith communities around the world. In my new role as chair of the United States Commission on International Religious Freedom, I have the sad privilege of monitoring and speaking out against such discrimination in virtually every part of the world. Whether it is the Baha'i in Iran, the Ahmadiyya in Pakistan, the Falun Gong and Uyghurs in China, the Copts in Egypt, moderate Muslims in Islamist Muslim states, the persecution and suffering they experience is cut from the same cloth as the hatred and persecution experienced by Jews since time immemorial. And new research is clearly demonstrating that such intolerance and bigotry is not just a moral wrong in and of itself. It is also a huge anchor on the progress of society. The positive correlation between societies that are religiously tolerant, pluralistic, and free are overwhelming. I don't need to tell you how busy the lives are of every member of Congress and every member of the United States Senate, but the majority leader in particular has an extraordinarily large number of demands on his time. And so I think it is a reflection of the importance of the work that we're doing, the high esteem with which memory is regarded, and you know, the increasingly legendary name of Tom Lantos that the majority leader takes time to be with us today. I want to quickly wrap up my remarks because there are a lot of other outstanding people you are going to be hearing from. So let me just resume where I had stopped. I was referring to the increasing body of new research that is clearly demonstrating that intolerance and bigotry of the sort we're talking about is not just a moral wrong in and of itself. It is a huge anchor on the progress of a society. The positive correlations between societies that are religiously tolerant, pluralistic, and free are overwhelming. They are more stable. They are more prosperous. They are more democratic. Women have higher status and more rights in such societies, and they are, above all, more peaceful. In other words, the countries that continue to foster and tolerate rampant anti-Semitism, as well as other dark religious prejudices, will never, I repeat, never, be able to become modern, successful democratic nations unless and until they confront this sickness that for too long they have nurtured. It is in their own self-interest to heed the lessons that the Lantos archives have to teach them. There is yet another reason why the work of memory in the archives is so important. Virulent, open anti-Semitism is not just an insignificant, though repulsive plant growing in an obscure corner of the world's garden. It is an invasive, choking species. It's an invasive, choking weed that, if allowed to grow with impunity, will spread as it has in the past, even to countries where we thought this scourge had been eradicated. In my parents' native land of Hungary, a magnificent country and culture that the Lantos family has a deep and abiding love for, we have seen a recent disturbing resurgence of open anti-Semitism on the far right. And Hungary is just one of a number of countries in Europe facing this disturbing pattern. I don't know whether the Hungarian ambassador is with us here today. I know he intended to join us. I want to say that many of these countries are taking important steps to try and combat this. The Embassy of Hungary, for example, hosted a month-long Yom HaShoah commemoration in which they did, among other things, show a remarkable film called There Once Was, which tells the story of the vanished Hungarian Jewish community from a small village in Hungary. But not enough is being done, and if we do not identify and target anti-Semitism in the Middle East, if we allow it to to thrive with impunity there, the cancer spreads, as I say, even to places where we thought it had been eradicated. The work that we are doing, that Memory and the Lantos Archives are doing, is truly God's work, or if you prefer, humanity's work. We will not let up. We will not cease to expose these evils and hold them up to be ridiculed and rejected by what we hope is a more sane world. We do this not only on behalf of the Jewish people, but on behalf of a more just, decent, and moral world. As my late father used to say, and as is often quoted, the veneer of civilization is indeed paper thin. We are its guardians, and we can never rest. Thank you very much.